KHOU 11 News, a long-awaited break in a case that's haunted Houston for nearly 4 decades.
She died when she was 23, so she's been gone longer than she was alive.
A young couple found murdered on a dark and isolated road known as Lover's Lane. No witnesses and very little evidence.
I found her purse and shoes in her white car.
Investigators chased leads for years, then decades, as families desperately waited for answers that never seemed to come.
What happened? Who did it? I'm curious of what this person's been doing all their life, how they've been able to live with it every day.
Now, finally, an arrest. A man with a long criminal history found hundreds of miles away. Investigators moving closer to justice for 2 victims whose story Houston never forgot.
When I was notified of this, I almost dropped the phone. I was stunned.
In this KHOU 11 special, how investigators finally cracked the case, what we know about the accused killer, and we hear from the people who covered it from day one.
This is Cold Case Arrest, the Lover's Lane murders. And here we are, after 36 years, this stunning development, an arrest made in one of Houston's most infamous cold cases. Thank you for joining us. I'm Len Cannon.
And I'm Mia Gradney. It was the summer of 1990. Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson were young and in love. The couple drove to a remote stretch of road called Lover's Lane. By morning, that quiet road turned into a crime scene.
Yeah, the decades went by with no break in this case until now. 64-year-old Floyd William Perot was arrested in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's now charged with capital murder.
Jason Miles has more from where the double murder occurred back in August of 1990.
This is a business park these days, but back in 1990, it was mostly undeveloped with a so-called Lover's Lane where this young couple lost their lives in a very brutal way. Families of Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson who've shared their pain over the years.
They tortured them, they assaulted them, and then they murdered them and just destroyed our family.
We're among those learning today of stunning developments in the infamous cold case, the arrest of 64-year-old Floyd Perot, who would have been in his late 20s when the young couple were killed.
Do you understand the claims and demands being made by the state of Texas?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is video of Perot being arraigned this afternoon in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he was taken into custody.
My hat's off to the investigators, all of them that came together, and they never forgot Cheryl and Andy.
Andy Kahn with Crime Stoppers of Houston.
And I know this was a big deal for them, and it's an even bigger deal for the families.
It was August of 1990 when Henry and Atkinson, who were dating, were found dead in a then remote area off Enclave Parkway. According to investigators, Henry had been sexually assaulted and her throat was cut, while Atkinson was found tied to a tree and nearly decapitated. Golf clubs and balls from his trunk pointed to Henry's body, which was partially covered by wooden boards. Over the years, hundreds of leads were chased, but according to charging documents, a tip found during a review of the case file led to Perot, who worked about a mile from the scene at the time of the crime.
Time may have buried, the evidence, but finally, 36 years later, the evidence finally was able to connect somebody to be charged.
We should learn many more details during a news conference tomorrow that the DA's office is planning to hold along with HPD, the FBI, and others. In West Houston, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
These murders have gone unsolved for almost 36 years. Let's walk you through now the history of the case. Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson were last seen August 22nd, 1990 at Bayou Mama's nightclub. Investigators say the couple then drove to a remote area known as Lover's Lane in West Houston. The very next day, a security guard discovered their car with some belongings in it. And that same morning, Cheryl and Andy's bodies were found. Then 11 years later, police received a letter offering information in the case. It turned up no leads. Years later, police then connected the suspect's DNA to a sex assault that happened just 2 months before the murders, but a suspect in this was never named. Investigators continued to pursue the case for decades. Then yesterday, this man, 64-year-old William Perot, was arrested in Lincoln, Nebraska. And this morning, the Harris County District Attorney announced Perot is now charged with capital murder. in connection to this 1990 cold case. Troy Kless joins us now with a closer look at Perot and his connections to Houston.
I'm here in White Oak Crossing in New Caney, where I spoke to multiple neighbors who say that Perot lived here several years ago. One woman tells me that she didn't interact with him much, but was surprised to learn of his involvement in the Lover's Lane case. And according to Harris County criminal records, he has several violent crimes that he had been convicted of in the past. One of the earliest cases we can find is from 1988, where Perot was charged with impersonating a police officer. Perot was also charged with a sexual assault back in 1996. According to court documents, they say an HPD report from that particular assault listed Floyd William Perot as a suspect, and DNA evidence from that case was placed into a CODIS database. As far as his connections to Houston, he does have some family living here. However, former neighbors tell us that Perot left the Houston area sometime in 2019 or 2020. I did speak with a son-in-law of Perot who was unaware of the recent charges. He says that Perot was not very close to his daughters, and he does have other businesses that he operated here in Harris County. Reporting in New Caney, Troy Kless, KHOU 11 News.
So let's get to more on Floyd Perot now.
Yeah, KHOU 11 investigators discovered that lengthy criminal history Troy just talked about, including a pattern of impersonating a cop. Jeremy Rogowski here with more. Jeremy?
Records show he was arrested 3 times for impersonating a police officer, twice before the Lover's Lane double murder and once after the grisly crime.
In 1988, records show Floyd William Perot pretended he was a sergeant with the Department of Defense and was driving a car displaying emergency equipment. Perot received 1-year probation, violated the terms, and got 9 months in jail. Then in July 1990, just 5 weeks before the Lover's Lane murders, he was arrested on 2 counts of impersonating a cop, claiming he was a deputy constable for Precinct 4 and Precinct 5. Perot made bond and was back out on the street. And exactly 1 week after the Lover's Lane murders, he pleaded guilty in that case and got a 2-year prison sentence. The pattern continued in 1996. Perot, in a car with emergency lights, pulled over a driver for supposed expired plates and demanded $100 cash to let him go. Searches of Perot's car and home later turned up numerous police-related items, including counterfeit IDs and badges for several law enforcement agencies.
Perot was sentenced to 20 years in that case, but was released on parole after serving about 3 years behind bars. The question for investigators at their upcoming news conference is, do they believe Perot was pretending to be a cop when he approached that young couple in West Houston on so-called Lover's Lane? Len and Mia?
Yeah, we will find out when investigators do reveal more. Jeremy, thank you. As we know, there were hundreds of leads in the Lover's Lane case over the years, but they went nowhere. But one development stood out. A sketch created years ago in a completely different investigation.
2 months before the Lover's Lane murders, an exotic dancer was sexually assaulted by a man. She helped generate a sketch of him. That sketch is now connected to today's suspect. And the forensic artist behind it, Lois Gibson, joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with the sexual assault investigation. What did the victim remember, and how did she describe the suspect that you were able to capture?
Well, look at the sketch. He's got a dead look to him. He's got a dead look, and I'm so glad they found him. I want to say to Cheryl Henry's people and Andy Atkinson, you're not going to be glad when you go to court, because he's going to look like he's dead. He's going to look boring, because I've seen a half a dozen serial killers, and they're so dead, they're so relaxed that the families get upset and they almost want to cry because they want him to be agitated and like a monster. I had to take him back and go, look, he's dead. So I'm so glad, you families of these victims, you're going to get justice, but don't expect him to look like what you think a killer in a movie. He's going to be dead.
Yeah.
He's dead inside.
So as a sketch artist, take us behind the scenes, so to speak, in your mind. What is it that stood out as you started to put this sketch together?
The biggest thing that stood out, it was a huge case. I had been to the medical examiners to pick up a skull for a reconstruction, and I saw the pictures of the victims on somebody's desk, because that's what they do. And they were tortured with real deep cuts for a long time before he did their throats. And he killed them in a very, very slow way. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I've never forgotten this. Never. I even thought of it last week, and then I tell myself, but it's not solved. But it is. I found out today, finally, after 36 years. Never forgot it. Never forgot it.
But what stood out in terms of when you start to sketch the suspect in your head based on the information?
Look at the sketch. He's boring. He's a normal looking white guy. He's unremarkable. He looks like 100,000 guys, but he does have that dead look. And if you look at the sketch and the photograph, he's got that same disinterested mouth.
Lois, when did you and the suspect from that sexual assault, when did you two meet and create the sketch? Was it before the murders or after they happened? Because the sexual assault happened 2 months before Lover's Lane.
It was after the murders. They thought about it, but they said, wow, some detectives said, it's so close. She was raped right if you walked into the woods just near where she was sexually assaulted, you would see the murder scene, but it was after. And these murderers, they go back to look and see what they did. So he was enjoying her sexual assault. But if you want to see what I got, look at the sketch. I do everything what the witness says, every little detail. And he's got that dead look of a serial killer.
But at the time, we were looking in hindsight, did you have a sense that maybe this could be tied to something bigger?
I was told it could be tied to the double murder because I've been doing this 43 years, and I'm working with these detectives. That's why they had to do her, and I was so glad she was real cooperative. And because of her business, she was good at remembering faces, and I did think it would look like them. And I remember I was assaulted. That's why I do this work, and I was nearly killed. So I told her that, so we commiserated. But I thought, yes, I hope it's connected to this homicide. But I had to wait 36 years to find out.
Unbelievable. Years later, there was technology that was used to what I call advance age, the original sketch that you did. What are your thoughts about the aged image? Is it close to how you would have drawn it if someone said, give us a version of him decades later?
I did that age progression.
You did the age progression?
Yes, I can tell. Yes, I do those better than other things. I've gotten babies aged to 30 years and got them returned to their sister. No, I age progress. I can look at my grandbabies and see what they look like. You're going to age very well. But anyway, I did the age progression. And when I did it, I do remember when I did it, I thought, oh, they haven't solved this yet. Can this help? And I kept losing hope.
Yeah. So you look at the images here, your sketches, and then the suspect today. What do you see when you compare all three images?
I see I got to ask the detectives to give me some pictures of him when he was younger. But it's him. It's plain. Only thing I missed was a little bit on the eyebrows, just a little bit, and a little bit on the nose. No, it's really close. But if you look at the crease of the mouth and you look at his photograph, he's got that look, a dead look of serial killer.
I really see the similarity, and I think so many other people do, between the advanced age and today, and the mouth specifically.
That's it.
The lips and everything.
Yes.
And the downturn of his mouth as well.
I didn't have him lose enough hair. Okay, I flip a coin. A lot of hair or just receding hairline.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot of guessing, like I do facial reconstructions of skulls, and I get those really right. And so I'm a good guesser.
It's an inexact science, but there is a skill that you have shown over all these years.
I've helped catch more than 1,315, now 1,316 people with my sketches, and I'm in the Guinness Book of Records. I'm the best in the world because I've done a lot of work because I live in Houston. But this case, I thought of it last week and I tell myself, but it's not solved. But now, today, I was yelling and my husband goes, I'm trying to sleep. I go, no, I'm so happy.
You have closure just as these families finally have closure.
Oh yeah, the families, you're gonna love the trial. You're not gonna like how he looks, the Henry families and the Atkinsons, but you're gonna love that place. It's a palace of truth. Everybody just tells the truth, and he's gonna walk out of there to a cell forever.
Lois Gibson, job well done. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and reflecting on everything.
Thank you, Lois.
Appreciate
it. Through the years, KHOU 11 has interviewed the victim's family. Former KHOU 11 journalist Sherman Chow sat down with Cheryl's mother in 2017. Here's a part of that interview as she recounts the moment police found her daughter's body.
To this day, Sherman, I know that if they had let me go to Cheryl, I would have breathed into her and she'd be alive.
Joining me now to talk about the break in this case going back almost 36 years, my former KHOU 11 colleague, recently retired Sherman Chow. You covered this story. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
And Eric Hansen, former crime beat reporter for the Houston Chronicle. Eric, I want to start with you. Your immediate thoughts when you heard that there had been arrest in this case.
Well, I was just really surprised because it's been 36 years. I know they've worked it very, very hard. And actually, I'm very pleased, especially for the family. I remember this case vividly, even though it's been a long time. It's something it sticks to your mind.
Yeah. And so when we've all covered major stories, when this story broke, describe sort of like the mood in terms of the city. Was there fear? Was there worry? It's like, don't go to Lover's Lane ever again. What was the feeling?
Well, Lynn, at that time, there were a lot of murders in Houston. I mean, people, I say so. Regarding the Lover's Lane thing, it was a rather secluded area at the time. Now it's the Energy Corridor.
Right.
I remember going out there and thinking it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of the city now, but nevertheless, there's fear. There were over 400 murders at that time, so that, definitely something that. And this was a big, big deal because of the viciousness, just pure terror of the crime. It was horrible.
Yeah, and can you shed light on what are we talking about here? What exactly happened? I know we've covered some of it today.
Cheryl and Andy had been out together. Cheryl never came home, so the family called police. A missing persons report was issued. The next day, a security guard noticed a car parked on a cul-de-sac near this area. And then he saw it several hours later, became suspicious, so he called police. Patrol came out, ran the plate, and saw that it was attached to a missing persons.
Did you not go to the scene that day?
When they found the body, I did, yes.
And what did investigators tell you had happened?
All they really knew was that, let me back up because it was unusual. Cheryl's body was found first.
Was she in the car?
No, she was not in the car. She was behind some woods. I think that's a picture of it there. And his body was found 10 hours later, about 100 yards away. So it was an unusual crime scene. When I got there that morning, he was still missing and they had found her body, okay? And also, when police got there, the patrol saw the car, that there was some blood in the car that really got the wheels in motion very quickly.
What was the manner of death?
Stabbing.
To both of them?
Yes. Yeah.
And Sherman, I know you talked to the family, the mother
Yes.
of Cheryl a few years ago. And I remember seeing that interview. She seemed to be holding on to the memory, even all these years later.
Yeah, I think it's, the reminder that it doesn't matter how many years pass, when something that awful happens, it really leaves this huge hole in your heart. And I was looking at that story this morning after y'all called to tell me that there had been an arrest. And like Eric, I was stunned. I got to tell you, I really thought this case would never be solved.
Because?
So much time had passed, and there did not seem to be any positive leads. There was no witness ID, no sketch of a suspect. The last story that we had done was about a familial DNA link that had tied the suspect in this case to a rapist of an exotic dancer in Houston at about that time. And so I'm very curious to find out at the press conference tomorrow if that is finally the link that broke this case.
Were you in Houston then? Remind me.
Oh yes,
okay.
yeah.
And what do you remember about the story when the day it happened?
Just that it was stunning, and I don't know that we knew it all that day.
No.
But when you talk about the manner of death, Cheryl had been sexually assaulted, and her throat was cut, and Andy was nearly decapitated. His body had been tied to a tree. The bodies were a distance apart,
Yes.
which is why it took several hours to locate Andy secondly. So it was a particularly brutal attack. And the other odd thing was a $20 bill had been left next to, I think it was Cheryl's body.
I don't recall that.
But that was a very curious.
Very odd.
Yeah, and Andy's golf clubs had been taken out of his car.
Right, I remember that.
Yep, and the balls and the clubs had been left in a linear fashion, almost as if it was pointing people towards the direction of the body. So a lot of odd things about the case. And Cheryl's mom, you know, I will never forget, but during the interview we did with her, because the authorities had to hold her back, as you know, almost always happens
at the crime scene,
and in a murder crime scene. And she had said, you know, Sharmina, I know if they had let me go to Cheryl that day, I would have breathed life into her.
Spoken like a mother.
A grieving
yeah, of
mother.
course. I want to touch on something real quick, and we're almost out of time.
Sorry.
It feels like this arrest, and we have not confirmed this because we're still waiting on a news conference from investigators, that perhaps familial DNA led them to this guy. I don't know what else could have done it 36 years later in another state.
Yeah.
It's pure speculation, but I think that you're probably onto something.
It reminds me of the Golden State Killer in California.
Right.
Decades went by, and it was a familial match that connected the dots. So that's what we're still waiting
to find out.
Yeah.
Well, and what we know is that the suspect at the scene, that DNA linked to a rapist at about the same time. So I think that.
Also in Houston.
Correct. Not far away, either by geography or by time. So we will see.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we'll find out tomorrow.
Eric Hansen, thank you for coming in and sharing the story you covered all those decades ago. And Sherman, likewise, both of you coming out of retirement to talk about this case.
As it were.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
For the families of Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson, this moment has been decades in the making. Cheryl's sister Meredith shared this statement with KHOU 11 News, saying in part, quote, "Today is a bittersweet day for our family. Cheryl and Andy were truly incredible people, kind, loving, and with so much life ahead of them. After nearly 36 years, we never imagined this day would come, and we are overwhelmed with emotion." The family also thanking law enforcement and those who supported them through the years. And it's that emotion we've heard from this family for years now as they searched for answers. Michelle Choi shares more from them.
For 36 years, Cheryl Henry's family has carried the weight of that loss, holding on to memories and hope.
She died when she was 23, and so she's been gone longer than she was alive.
Over the years, we've spoken with Cheryl's family, including her mother, who passed away without closure in the case. This interview from 2017 when she sat down with her Sherman Chow.
This day, Sherman, I know that if they had let me go to Cheryl, I would have breathed into her and she'd be alive.
We also spoke with Andy Atkinson's family. His father, who also passed away before today's developments, told us they were haunted by unanswered questions about their son's final moments. And Andy's mother pleading with the public during an HPD news conference.
Cheryl deserved justice. They were tortured and knew they were going to die. So please come forward.
All searching for the same thing, answers.
I just loved her laugh.
And just 3 years ago, we sat down with Cheryl's sisters as the family pushed for new leads, even taking out a full-page newspaper ad, hoping someone would come forward.
They bound them, they tortured them, they assaulted them, and then they murdered them, and just destroyed our family.
The pain's still raw.
I literally walked through every minute I was with her that day, and what I could have done different if I hadn't left, if she had gone home.
Even after decades, there had been no answers.
So it's hard when people ask us if there's anything new, because for 33 years, there hasn't been anything new.
Until now. Authorities say a suspect is now charged, a major break in a case families never gave up on.
We hopefully will bring someone to actually come forward, that they're do the right thing.
A hope they held on to year after year, now possibly closer than ever to answers. In Houston, Michelle Choi, KHOU 11 News.
Certainly a mix of emotions tonight after nearly 36 years without answers. There's still a lot to learn from a motive to how investigators finally found this suspect.
We will be following all the angles. Thank you for joining us on KHOU 11 Plus. I'm Mia Gradney.
And I'm Len Cannon.